Today we're looking at Psalm 143. It's a psalm of David. He is in deep distress. He is under threat from his enemies. We don't know the context or the background. A number of times it could have been in David's life. But we hear how he prays when he's in distress. And we see that he's more bothered that God will judge him or that God will hide his face from him than he is about what the enemy might do. That's interesting and something we learn from. We'll see that more as we read through. But also, he has some answers to his sense of great distress. And those involve both looking backward and looking forward, and we can learn from that. It splits neatly into two halves, verses 1 to 6 and 7 to 12. So Psalm 143, 1 to 6. Hear my prayer, O Lord. Give ear to my supplications in your faithfulness. Answer me in your righteousness. Do not enter into judgment with your servant, for no one living is righteous before you. For the enemy has pursued me, crushing my life to the ground, making me sit in darkness like those long dead. Therefore my spirit faints within me, my heart within me is appalled. I remember the days of old. I think about all your deeds. I meditate on the works of your hands. I stretch out my hands to you. My soul thirsts for you like a parched land. It's almost unspeakable distress. But we don't know all that's going on. But what seems to be his greatest fear, the enemy has pursued him and made him sit in darkness like those long dead. His spirit faints within, his heart is appalled. But the cry, the prayer is, don't enter into judgment with your servant. For no one living is righteous before you. In other words, God, don't you judge me. That would be too much. That would be impossible. I'd have no hope. And then the looking outwards beyond himself, which is always part of the answer in distress. I remember the days of old. I think about all your deeds. I meditate on the work of your hands. He knows God's mercies and blessings in the past, whether to him or to the people of God. And therefore, verse 6, he's able to stretch his hands out to God because he knows that God is a God who blesses his people. He knows that from his church history, his own experience. He knows that in times of deep distress, he can remember God's goodness of old and God's power of old. And so we come to the second half, verse 7. Answer me quickly, O Lord, my spirit fails. Do not hide your face from me, or I shall be like those who go down to the pit. Let me hear of your steadfast love in the morning, for in you I put my trust. Teach me the way I should go, for to you I lift up my soul. Save me, O Lord, from my enemies. I've fled to you for refuge. Teach me to do your will, for you are my God. Let your good spirit lead me on a level path. For your name's sake, O Lord, preserve my life. In your righteousness, bring me out of trouble. In your steadfast love, cut off my enemies and destroy all my adversaries. For I am your servant. Again, his huge concern, his urgent concern, answer me quickly, O Lord, my spirit fails. Huge concern is that God will absent himself. Do not hide your face from me, or I shall be like those who go down to the pit. It's bad enough that the whole world's against me, but Lord, it would just be the end if you were against me, if you turned your face from me. So that's the real prayer, and this is a godly man in distress, not wanting to lose his God. But then, Just as in the first half of the psalm he looked back, now he looks forward. Verse 8, let me hear of your steadfast love in the morning. For in you I put my trust. Teach me the way I should go, for to you I lift up my soul. Whether this is a nighttime prayer or a daytime prayer, we don't know. But he sees a glimmer of God's love, and he sees a sense that he may hear more of it in the morning. He's looking into the future. He's not stuck in the appalling present. He's able to lift his eyes beyond that to hear of God's steadfast love. Now, it may be hearing of God's steadfast love in his works of old, as in the first half of the psalm. It may be experiencing God's steadfast love in the future, and I'm sure that's part of it. But it's looking to the future for God's blessing, just as he looked to the past to remember God's blessing. And that phrase, steadfast love, comes up again at the end. In your steadfast love, cut off my enemies, destroy my adversaries, for I am your servant. His hope in deep darkness, our hope in whatever darkness, is God's steadfast love, God's faithfulness, God's unbreakable love for his people. Amen.